All right, everybody, welcome back to the Family That Podcast. So today I'm going to talk about something that's really controversial and that's a hot topic right now. But I wanted to just give my ideas and my thoughts about this whole thing because I've been keeping up with the trial. I've been listening to other people's opinion about it and just kind of seeing what's going on. So I remember last year during 2020, there was all this like protesting going on. There was a lot going on. And I remember like having to take a step back myself sometime last year and really do my own research because I'm like, man, this is a lot. Like they were pushing so much in our face. It was very emotional that time last year, especially being black. They had us, a lot of us, feeling like, what, they don't care about us, that, what, our lives don't matter, we're being gunned down, that we're in danger, that we're, like, our lives are constantly being threatened, right? And so then I thought about my everyday life, and I'm like, thankfully, haven't had too many, I haven't had bad encounters with police, but that doesn't mean that bad police encounters don't happen. I'm also not in the neighborhood that's heavily policed, so I can't speak to the people that constantly are harassed by cops. My mom was stopped by a cop that was like overzealous. We dealt with that. I remember being in the passenger seat and I was pregnant and I was very nervous, even though we haven't done anything. It just was never. That was like a few years before all of this, but you're just really fearful of all types of interactions, like you've been taught your whole life that what, things are different for us because of the color of your skin, so you approach certain situations differently. I said all of that to say that when they presented this whole Kyle Rittenhouse to us, they made it seem like he was in the street just, there looking for mischief, looking for trouble, and gunning down protesters. And so now that we actually look at the trial and we can see things for what they are, it's a little sad to me because a lot of people don't honestly see what happened, see how the media lied to us, see how we were brainwashed and lied to believe a certain thing about this case and about the 2020 riots and all of these things, that we have been lied to about. We can't even see that we've been lied to. And so anyways, I follow a lot of popular black blogs, right? And this trial has been going on for a few days. And the first thing that I see them post of the trial is not where the witness said that, what, I did advance at him with a gun first. It's not the parts where it looks like he was doing this in self-defense. They, of course, post him crying. They post this moment of weakness so people can talk about him and to make it seem like, what, these fragile white tears, as they would call them. And so I've just been taken aback by the media coverage by this whole thing. And it really just makes me sad because it's like, man, you can't trust. They're just realizing that, what, you have to really do your own research. It's okay for you to think for yourself, even though your opinions are unpopular amongst the people that you associate with. You have to just go out on that limb and think for yourself. So, I remember putting a post up that was vastly different. I'm like, are you guys watching the trial? Do you guys see what's going on? I'm not going to talk about the victim's past because at the time, of course, Kyle Rittenhouse had no idea who these people were. But I will say that when these riots, protests were happening, we had a lot of people, a lot of bad actors that made the whole movement look bad. And I hated that because I went to a protest that was extremely positive, that we tried to talk about how we can bring changes about in the community and things like that. It was extremely positive. But then you go and it's like that 9 o'clock hour where things turn just crazy. And I understand because if you understood what people are hearing in their ear, what they've been taught their entire lives, you will be angry. You'll want to burn cities down too. And that's what were people going through people's mindset, was the things that they've heard their entire lives about how hard our lives in this country has been because we're black. You were pushed these ideas since you were very small. And so when I say that people burn down cities, that I understand that. I'm not saying that I would personally do that. I'm saying that you have to understand that the rage that people felt, because when these incidents happen, they tend to group all the incidents together. We don't look at the whole facts of the case. We don't see what led to that interaction. We don't go back and look at the body cam footage. We don't go back and look. Not all. I'm not going to say we. I'm just saying most people don't go back and look at the information that led to this, that, or the third. So, and then we end up lumping every situation together. It's like say their name, say their name. All of these names are together. And the problem with that is that every case is vastly different. And so, but if you were in that mind frame, say their name, say your name, it looks like a whole bloodshed. It seems like all your influencers, your celebrity, your media is telling you that they're literally killing black and brown bodies in this country. You don't stand a chance. It makes you feel a certain type of way. It makes you enraged. It makes you angry. You want to do something. You feel like there's nothing that you can do. Right? But what they failed to tell the black community is that we need to work on our own community, that we need to come together. We need to be the change that we would like to see in our own community. We have to do better. And I'm speaking as a group because, like, for example, like, I wish I would have done better. I wish that I would have had my kids in a 2-parent household. I wish their dad was present. I mean, our kids are failing in schools. Like, I was reading articles about how our kids are performing in school, how we're underperforming every single time all across the board. We have to do better when it comes to focusing on our education. We got to do better with graduating. We got to figure out how we can get these kids interested in school and get something that will be tangible for for us, so we can learn how to, we can do things other than destruction is what I'm trying to say. Is that we have to be the change in our own communities. We have a lot of people that have children out of wedlock, me being included, and we have children before that we can afford these children, putting ourselves in the worst predicament because then we're having to work 2 and 3 jobs to provide for a child. But because we're the only one providing for that child, your child also misses out on that quality time of having you. I notice a difference in my children now that I'm home with them. Even though, it's very hard for me to be home, I've noticed a difference now that I'm with my children. I'm present with my children. I'm able to pour a lot of love. I'm able to guide them. I'm able to put my own values and morals into them. They're not always away from me. And so I think that that's important, that we are back present with our children, that we're not just giving them everything that we didn't have growing up. Because yes, that's important. We want them to have a great life, but we also have to instill morals, values into our children. And so I did a podcast talking about it's so exhausting being black, and I talk about this more in detail. I'll link it down below, and I'll put it on the channel at a later date. But we have to look at our own selves in the mirror and realize that there's things that we need to change in our communities as well. That, we can't just keep saying white man this, white man that. When I look around some of these communities, it's not a white man there. It's us committing, I don't even want to use those. I'm not gonna go further details, but if you look at my being black is exhausting sometimes podcast, I kind of do a better job of explaining what I'm trying to say here. Anyways, I'm trying to say that the media and our people that are supposed to lead us to better days have brainwashed and lied to us about what's going on and what's the solution in our own communities. And that's the problem. And all of this to talk about Kyle Rittenhouse, watching the trial and things like that. I think that, it's sad how far we were brainwashed and lied to about this whole incident. I mean, people are still believing the lies that the media is talking about this whole kid. Now we can argue to the point that he shouldn't have been out there with the weapon. Okay, yeah, that's true, right? We can argue to that point. But there are a lot of people that shouldn't have been out there that night because there was a quote-unquote curfew, right? And so my biggest point with this whole thing is this. The people that were out there were bad actors for our movement. They were looting, rioting, they were burning stuff down, all of these things, right? They didn't look good. And they left our communities in ruins. They left ashes where buildings and businesses used to be. Some of these things still haven't been rebuilt to this day. So who did that really hurt? It hurt our communities. It didn't hurt the police department. The police department just like, okay, cool, you'll handle your own problems now. But when somebody shoots you and now you can't get somebody for 40 minutes, you're still mad. It's like, okay, so that's the whole problem with this whole movement, is that we don't have clear solution about what we want about the problem. You can't say that we want less policing and then we have women and children getting murdered. Like it's a lot going on right now. And I just think all of it, it's just sad because it shows us how far we have been brainwashed and lied to by our black leaders and the media. We've been lied to. And and I'm not saying that the other, I just want people to stop groupthink. I think it's okay for you to be an individual and to think for yourself and to do your own research. Stop going along with the crowd. Start doing your own research and seeing things for what they are. So we just have to learn how to see through the BS and the lies that the media spews to us daily. We have to learn how to filter out the junk and take what we can from the information that we receive. And that, to not always go along with the popular thought at the time. We have to really start looking and seeing things for what they are. I think that it's becoming detrimental to our community to keep feeding into this whole propaganda when at the same time it's not helping our community. This whole rioting and movement just left our communities. It didn't put them in better shape is what I'll say. And so when it comes to Kyle Rittenhouse, the saddest thing about this is that they painted him out to be a white supremacist and all of these things. And those things might be true because, say he was with a certain group, hanging out with pictures and stuff like that. I'm not here to argue if he's a white supremacist or not. I just think it's interesting that black people are so mad about this whole entire situation when the victims were not black. And these were also bad actors in the movement that made the whole movement look bad. These are the same bad actors that, possibly left some of these communities in ashes and ruins that will never be rebuilt. And so I just don't understand why, besides the fact that they were, of course, this happened at a protest that was supposed to be about our black lives. Besides that being the point, he was not purposely there to gun down protesters like they told us. He was there to protect the business and to render aid. Okay, that's what the trial is saying. So I'm just going based off what I've heard in the trial. Now, what his true intentions were, I can't speak to that because nobody knows what his true intentions were. And it seems like he only harmed those that harmed him first. So it looks like a clear case of self-defense, whether you like it or not. And I don't know if he'll be found guilty or not guilty. But just watching this whole thing and seeing the information for myself, I see that the media lied and they got it wrong, and they refuse to admit they got it wrong. And when you refuse to admit that you got it wrong, you have led so many astray that still believe all of these lies. And now they're going to be angry when they get an outcome that's unfavorable, even though this outcome makes sense, even though this outcome is right under the law anyways, right? So just wanted to talk about that. I will leave my podcast about how being black is exhausting, because I do talk about this more in details about what I want to see from my community, how I'm raising my children, and just things that I would like to see happen in our community, because I feel like we can do better and be better, but we have to see things for what they are, and we have to understand that not everybody that has been our face has been telling us the truth. And that's just what it is, because notice how some of your black leaders that were there leading the cause and all these things while our cities were burning down, woods and destruction, they now have popular podcasts. They now have book deals. They have moved into great neighborhoods. Some of them have even hired private security for themselves. So, but look at what position you're still in. Are you still in the same position you were in with the riots? I don't know. But so I thought all of that was interesting. So thank you all for watching today's video. Catch you guys on another one.